Hello, welcome back to the Cricket Nerds. Me, Zach, and Benji, all three of the Cricket Nerds, are back once again talking about the Ashes. We've missed a couple of days of Ashes reviews, and a lot has happened. Australia have won the second test. They go 2-0 up, not without some controversy, which we will absolutely discuss. But first of all, did the better team win?
Probably, although that's hard to say. I think England have had times in both this test match and the Edgbaston test match where they could have won. Well, not could have won. They could have put more pressure on Australia. They could have played smarter and then got themselves in a position where they could have won. I mean, for me, it all comes down to that first morning, really, where David Warner and Usman Khawaja pretty much blocked out England's pretty ordinary bowling, in which was favourable bowling conditions, and England didn't make the most of that. They had the best of the conditions for most of the test match. They didn't make the most of it, and I think ultimately that's why they lost in the end, because it would have taken something incredible from Ben Stokes, and almost did take something incredible from Ben Stokes to actually win the game, in which case we didn't. But yeah, I think all in all, Australia probably have played better and have looked the more solid team. Don't know what your thoughts are, Benj.
I mean, both teams lost their heads a bit. I think England on the second day, that like half an hour window when Pope, Root, Duckett, and Brooke all ended up getting out in England's first innings, that was a real turning point in the match where everyone just seemed to lose their heads a bit. And the same in Australia's second innings, where just very quickly Smith and Khawaja played very, very stupid shots to get out where they really didn't need to. Like they really threw their wickets away there. I think overall, Australia probably were the better team. They battered out that first innings, and definitely that first innings lead that they had, I think, was definitely the difference in this game. Yeah, I just think England, the turning point for me was England not capitalising on Nathan Lyon being injured. Like, if England had just knuckled down for another half an hour, ducked into some short balls, they'd have won that game. And I think, to me, that's the big difference. However, today's cricket, if you weren't there, it was wild. It was an absolute ride all day. James, talk us through Ben Stokes today.
Ben Stokes is unbelievable. He nearly pulled off a Headingley 2.0. It was aggression, but at the right tempo, which was nice to see. He chose his moments to put the pressure back on the bowlers, and for a good sort of half an hour period, Australia looked like they were losing their heads, like they looked under pressure, they looked stressed out, and they didn't look like they knew what they were doing. But obviously, all good things and everything. And it, Hazelwood managed to bounce him out, and it was, Ben Stokes' luck ran out because there were a couple of drops as well. But it was an extraordinary innings, and it was some real fight, a proper captain's knock. But it has to be said that England probably would have got over the line if Johnny Bairstow hadn't gone out for 10. Now, I'm gonna just describe what happened if you haven't seen it already. So yeah, you probably have. But Johnny Bairstow, he ducks under a short ball, and he's in his crease. He taps his bat down as though it's the end of the over. Starts to walk into the middle to chat to Ben Stokes, as is every batsman's want between overs. And while he's done that, just as he's walked out of his crease, Alex Carey has taken the catch off the short ball and underarmed it into the stumps. Bairstow, just having left his crease, has been found run out. The Australians have appealed, and Bairstow is out. Not trying to steal a run, just thinking it was the end of the over. Now, perfectly within the laws of the game. That is very, very important to note. The controversy comes in this lovely little phrase that English people and Australians love to use, which is spirit of the game. Now, it's interesting because the Aussies are very, very hot on what is within the spirit of the game and very, very opinionated on it. So, Zach, what is your reaction to Johnny Bairstow being technically stumped, I guess?
My initial reaction was a bit of anger at the Australians, probably because I want England to win, but also I just look at that sort of dismissal and I think and I was questioning, is it on par with a mankad? Now, a mankad, if you're a long way down the wicket, then and you're the bowler, you have two choices, really. You can either decide to warn them or just stump them out. And I've got less of a problem with that. Johnny Bairstow wasn't even aware of the risk that he was taking. And some people have said that was sloppy on Johnny Bairstow's part. And maybe it was. However, you could probably objectively say that Australia weren't following the spirit of the game in that situation. Now, I understand that part of the game with Johnny Bairstow. We've seen what he did last year. He's finished so many games in test matches for England. He probably would have been the difference, I reckon, if he hadn't have got out like that. And I think given that, I can understand what Australia did. However, all Pat Cummins needed to say in his post-match interview was, given the situation of the game, we needed that wicket, and just own up to that rather than say, no, I do it again. I don't think it's the best way to win a test match. I don't know what your opinion is, Benj.
Yeah, I mean, my first gut instinct is sloppy on Bairstow. Every batter knows you don't wander out of your crease, especially when the ball's not dead. And actually, he hadn't tapped his bat down. If you see the replay, Bairstow ducks and then just walks. He doesn't wait at all anytime. He just wanders out of his crease. So you can see where Australia are coming from. It's given as a stumping because it's one movement from Carey. He takes it and throws it pretty much instantly. He doesn't wait at all. And it's just, that the umpires hadn't deemed it as dead. Yet the spirit of the game question comes into debate. Different game if that hadn't happened. And for me, I wouldn't want to win a cricket game that way. It just seems a bit dirty. It's the Ashes. I get it. But really, Australia, that's the way that you're going to play this. That's the way that you're going to choose to win this game is, underhand tactics. Really, you've not won a wicket there. You could say it's a smart piece of work by Alex Carey, but it's not as though he's cheating, trying to gain an unfair advantage. It's just a lapse in concentration. And really, not a fan personally, but I see where they're coming from. Had it not been for that, I think England would have won by a long shot. And what it did lead to was Ben Stokes. I've never seen him more fired up. I think he was more fired up than Headingley in 2019. And Stuart Broad was just comical. The absolute best person to come out after that situation was Broady, to just play up to the crowd, leave his bat in there for just a little bit too long every single time. So shout out Broady.
Yeah, it was. It definitely got things spicy, and I'm really looking forward to the third test because tensions are going to be running very high. Because there were so much booing. Like the booing was really loud. Even some of the MCC members in the long room were starting to pick fights with the Aussies, which you hate to see. I mean, it's funny because they're all just elitist old blokes. So that perspective is funny. But the thing I hated most about it was when there was all this loud booing and the chants of same old Aussies always cheating, which that's fine.
Not wrong.
It's a bit of a laugh. What I didn't like was Andrew Strauss then saying, oh, well, it's not the usual Lord's crowd that said this. And yeah, just because there were reduced fees to get into Lords this time, it's 25 quid. So that on the back of the whole, paper saying that cricket is elitist and racist in England, you shut up, Andrew Strauss. Shut up, you idiot. Yeah, if it is a different crowd, then good, because they can afford to come to the game. Idiot. So I'm more so angry at Andrew Strauss and the elitists than I am with any Australians not withdrawing appeal, Johnny Bairstow being a prat, leaving his crease, all of that. Like the main emotion I felt was just, I was more angry that it had happened, that it was, it was such an avoidable thing, than the actual Australians. I don't really have a dog in it.
No, well, it just leaves the series in an interesting position, really, because England are going to want to come back hard, I think, now. I think this loss has made the Edgbaston loss, where we should have won, that hurt just that bit more. And I think England, after the Edgbaston test, was saying, we're going to come harder at the Aussies. We're going to play more aggressively. We had Zach Crawley saying would win by 150 runs at Lords. All this stuff, all this bravado, which was quite frustrating, I reckon, across the country for English fans. And I think the Aussies lapped it up a little bit. But I think now we're in the fight. England have kind of got what they wanted, which is the Aussies nibbling a bit, getting a bit tense. And I think it's preparing for us to go to Headingley, where the England crowd they're not fair on any team that comes to tour. So it will be a really good match. And also I think it's going to be interesting to see how England play now. Because looking ahead, I would say that Australia probably have played slightly better cricket, but I think part of that is due to England's failure. So I'm interested in your guys' opinions as to, do we think England have it in them to win the next 3 test matches?
Yeah, I reckon. They could. I'm interested to see what the team looks like, though, because I said it in the last podcast, that I haven't been impressed with Ollie Robinson, especially the pace. Jimmy Anderson has looked ineffective. Stuart Broad has still been good. Josh Tongue has been a point of difference. So in this next test, I think I'd like to see Wood and Wokes come in place of Robinson and Anderson, because Wood is a genuinely fiery bowler. And if Headingley is going to be as spicy as we think, I would like somebody that's going to be bowling 95-mile-an-hour bouncers in that game. And I think Wokes, he adds a bit of depth to the batting, and he can, he's so talented, especially in England, that I would really like to see that. So those are the changes I'd make. Interested to see if Ollie Pope, because he's, he did his shoulder, he could be out now. In which case, and this is this isn't going to happen, but what I would do is stick Bairstow in. Bairstow. I would stick Stokes in at 3, Bairstow 6, and Folkes comes in as 7 with the gloves. But there we go. Obviously, that isn't going to happen. I don't know who's going to come in at 3, like Dan Lawrence, maybe.
There was something that was said that Rehan Ahmed in his last game for Leicestershire played at number 3 and got 71. But no, I don't think that's going to happen. But so that's England. Like, England probably do have the squad depth, and the way they've been playing over the last year, they probably got it in them to win these next 2 games. But when you look at Australia, I mean, I wouldn't say that, like, Marnus Labuschagne hasn't looked that great in these 2 test matches. Cameron Green seems to be out of form a bit with the bat. I mean, David Warner, hit or miss. So I think for Australia, really, the key is Usman Khawaja, Stephen Smith, and whether Travis Head can smack it around a bit. So I don't think England will be necessarily worried about the batting. But Benj, kind of like a last point on this, do you think Nathan Lyon, now he's out of the series, how much of a blow do you think that is for the Aussies?
I think it's huge. I think Nathan Lyon has played 100 consecutive tests for Australia. He made his debut and he has played And since he made his debut, Australia played 100 Test matches, and Nathan Lyon has played 100 Test matches. He hasn't missed a Test match since his debut. It's just what a record. I think there's only 5 of the players that have done that. He's going to be such a difference. Todd Murphy seems to be the one that is likely to replace him. It will be interesting to see if Murphy has the same impact that he had in, I can't remember if it was India or Pakistan that Todd Murphy made his debut. I think it was India in the Side Mushtaqali Trophy, in the Border Gavaskar Trophy, wasn't it?
Side Mushtaqali.
Not the Side Mushtaqali Trophy.
For our Indian fans, just drop that in.
In the Border Gavaskar Trophy, he made his debut and really made waves. So yeah, I'm going to say probably Todd Murphy. Well, definitely is going to be Todd Murphy, but it'll be interesting to see if England take a liking to him. I can imagine seeing Bairstow smashing Murphy into the Western Terrace. Would be a great thing to see.
I think that's the difference really, is that Nathan Lyon, he has that experience in those situations to still take wickets, to know when to toss it up, when not to toss it up, that sort of thing. So yeah, but it's going to be interesting. So stick around. Sorry we haven't been as active for this test match. There have been a few things going on personally that we've not been able to attend to these podcasts, but going forward, we'll be on it. And we can't wait. It promises to be a great rest of the series. So thanks so much for watching. Remember to hit that like button. It does us massive favors. Subscribe. You can also comment. Leave us your CNQs. What have you enjoyed? What's your opinions on the controversial stuff that's been going on? We're really interested to know. And you can also listen to us on Spotify and whatever podcasting sites you listen to. And that's everything. So we thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.